Here's a thread from Carlos. Aaron Rupar says that all is well for Obama. Quote from Vox.com. Philip Rucker of the Washington Post called Trump's bluff. In one of your Mother's Day tweets, you appeared to accuse President Obama of the biggest political crime in American history by far. Those were your words. What exactly is the crime you were accusing President Obama of committing? And do you believe the Justice Department should prosecute him? Rucker asked during a news conference that was ostensibly about the coronavirus. Trump had nothing. Yup, that's it. Once again, the press has exposed another nonsensical Donald Trump conspiracy theory. Trump didn't give Obama's lackeys his evidence. Therefore, there is no evidence. Because we all know that if Trump had evidence, he'd tell the Washington Post. But wait, Vox has more. Of course, Obamagate does not involve a crime. And there's no evidence that Obama or his top officials conspired against Trump. Quite the opposite. Yes, there's evidence that Obama and his top officials helped Trump. Or maybe Vox means there's evidence that Trump conspired against Obama and his top officials. At any rate, Obama's in no danger. Everything's fine. There's really no point in saying the following since Aaron Rupar is not rational, but others are reading this. Trump is able to hoodwink the press whenever he wants. Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, secretly went to Pyongyang and met with Kim Jong-un. It not only never leaked, but the press didn't know until the White House announced it. Remember when Trump pulled a couple dozen American troops from northeast Syria? The greatest betrayal of an ally in the history of the universe. Nobody in the press was aware of what happened. Within 48 hours, the Syrian Kurds signed a deal with Bashar al-Assad that created a Kurdish semi-autonomous region, integrated the Syrian Kurdish forces into the Syrian armed forces, and allowed foreign protection of the Kurds. Unlike anyone in the press, I actually read the deal. This thing took years to negotiate. Assad and the Kurds were secretly negotiating on neutral ground. And Trump knew, of course, he arranged it. The second that the deal was announced, Syrian troops appeared on the border with Turkey and planted brand new Syrian flags. These men had traveled all the way across Kurdish territory instantaneously. They were flown. I could go on forever. The USS Jimmy Carter carried out 2 successful combat missions in the Pacific in 2017. The Carter inserts Special Operations Forces, and the Jolly Roger means that it's a successful combat mission. April 2017, September 2017. See that pirate flag, the Jolly Roger? Successful combat mission in the Pacific. Vox is unaware of General Wang Jinse's war fight manual, the 36 Stratagems. Trump is using it to the letter. Chapter 5, Proximate Stratagems. Feign madness, but keep your balance. Hide behind the mask of a fool, a drunk, or a madman to create confusion about your intentions and motivations. Lure your opponent into underestimating your ability until, overconfident, he drops his guard. Then you may attack. Vox and Aaron Rupar have no learning curve. They take Trump at face value. Unlike Aaron Rupar, I studied Trump before I decided to support him. He earned my support. There's nothing like watching Trump goad the Democrats and the press, sorry for the repetition, into destroying themselves. Here's what Trump is doing now. He's making the press circle the wagons around Obama. When everybody, especially Obama, think that Trump has petered out, whammo. Trump has only done this too many times to count. As a military thinker, Trump understands preparing the battlefield. Aaron Rupar has no idea what that means. Remember the Battle of Mosul? It destroyed the Islamic State in Iraq. Guess how long the US Air Force prepared the battlefield? 9 months. I can tell you what they did. They built a virtual 3D model of the city. Each building was mapped inside and out. Multiple aerial and space platforms mapped the outsides of the buildings. We also use synthetic aperture radar, SAR, to map the insides of the buildings. But about 500 Arab commandos infiltrated the city and mapped the tunnels and underground fortifications. They use high-speed nanodrones the size of insects that zip through a building, filming at hundreds of thousands of frames per second. Nobody even notices these bugs, but they're there if you look. These are the ones they tell us about, and yes, these are for surveillance. Looks like a little tiny helicopter. The ones they don't tell us about are the size of wasps. They have a wide-angle lens for a head, and they are flying so fast and silently that they aren't even noticed. The Islamic States fortified Mosul for 3 years. They had 1 million human shields. They blocked all roads into the city and razed entire city blocks to create massive killing zones. They built pillboxes of hardened concrete and had the largest tunnel and underground fortification system ever created. And none of it worked. Americans helped, but we didn't engage in ground combat. The assault troops were never filmed. The press was embedded with the second wave. We don't know how the Iraqis got into Mosul. The assault troops destroyed and all the fortified positions, killed the defenders, breached the barriers, and opened the way for the second wave. Hundreds of car and truck bombs were neutralized. The drivers were killed by shots through the armored windshields. In other cases, the drivers and their explosives were instantly incinerated by unknown weapons. So that used to be a vehicle. Literally 100% of the reporting on Mosul was garbage. But that was good because it made the Islamic State overconfident. They had no idea that they were being wiped out. The unseen assault troops were so good and had such control of the battle space that Iraqi generals were able to visit the front lines only 1 street away from the fighting. The generals traveled in tiny groups, often no more than 3 or even 2. The Battle of Mosul was a turning point in military history. It's why the US Marines are giving up their tanks and artillery. PopularMechanics.com. After nearly a century, the US Marine Corps is ditching its tanks. They're getting better weapons. The US Marines will now operate the way unknown assault troops did in Mosul. Very small units with massive firepower. In the past, the goal was to take and hold ground. In Mosul, the assault troops simply killed the enemy. The second wave held the ground taken. In the past, you took and held ground in order to prevent a counterattack. In Mosul, the assault troops killed everybody, so there was nobody left to launch a counterattack. The plan going forward is not to invade and overthrow and rebuild. The plan is to destroy the enemy without destroying the country. We will wage war on military objects alone. Virtually the entire Yemen war was fought clandestinely. That's how we'll fight. No more giving accurate information to the treasonous press. They get to be hoodwinked. Hey, Aaron Rupar, look what Trump did. Remember the Tomahawk missiles fired at Shayrat Air Base in Syria? Strategic deception. Assad's Sukhoi Su-22 attack aircraft were in hardened shelters. Every shelter had a tiny hole in its roof. The inside walls of the shelters were scarred by fragmentation. See? Only one weapon has that signature, the GBU small diameter bomb. Here's a test. I'm going to blow this up for you guys. Let's run it one more time. And that's how the small diameter bomb works. Okay. Pardon me for a moment. Aircraft dropped them on Shayrat. Arab aircraft, Saudi aircraft. They spoofed the crappy Russian radar and destroyed all of Assad's attack aircraft, and the American press is oblivious to it. So go ahead and tell Obama that he's in the clear. I want him to think that. Nothing's funnier than watching Trump fool you idiots over and over and over.